Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Today we'll be discussing the history of the wizarding branch of magic known as divination. Over the centuries, divination has gone by many names: soothsaying, mystic magic, the second sight, clairvoyance, and fortune-telling. And while some of these terms may seem more familiar than others, they all represent the same thing: the somewhat obscure form of magic that is rooted in the ability to foresee the future. Unlike other branches of witchcraft and wizardry, divination is said to be a gift or ability that runs in a person's blood and that they are therefore born with. Witches and wizards who inherit these natural skills from their ancestors are known within magical society as seers. The term seer refers to the person's rare ability to access what is called their inner eye, or second sight, which enables them to see and predict the future. Those who are not considered to be seers are often unable to excel in the art of divination, not only because they can't access visions of future events, but also because they're rarely able to successfully perform any of the other ways of divining what's to come. While the primary and often most reliable form of divination is performed by a seer during one of their sometimes unexpected visions, there are also many other ways to practice this branch of magic. For example, for centuries, it has been well documented that even Muggles have believed that the future could be divined through astrology, which is the interpretation of how the stars and planets move about and align with one another. Popularity of this particular form of divination even persists today through newspaper columns and smartphone apps dedicated to sharing monthly horoscopes of each astrological star sign. And while it's almost a certainty that wizardkind is responsible for the discovery of astrology as a form of divination, it has certainly been accepted and promoted through Muggle culture for nearly just as long. Throughout the centuries, Muggle culture has also practiced many other forms of fortune-telling that they also presumably picked up from the wizarding community. As the Muggle history books will tell you, they've been involved in the study of things like numerology, palmistry, reading tea leaves, and gazing into crystal balls for many hundreds, if not thousands of years, all of which has been done in the name of finding answers regarding events to come. Of course, in the wizarding world, many of these same types of fortune-telling techniques have been, and still are, used to interpret the future. However, witches and wizards have historically practiced many more forms of divination than their Muggle counterparts, including things like lithomancy, ornithomancy, and the interpretation of rune stones. As with most branches of magic, it's impossible to know exactly when divination was invented or discovered. However, historical evidence that dates back to 4000 BCE suggests that ancient civilizations like China, Egypt, and Babylonia have long since practiced various forms of divination. This indicates that, at the very least, soothsaying has been around for the last 6,000 years. Of course, this doesn't necessarily mean that a true seer first shared a prophecy around that time. What it does mean, though, is that the art of divining the future through various methods has been emerging since then. And while it's just about anyone's guess what type of divination people were practicing in 4000 BCE, we do know that sometime between 3000 BCE and 30 BCE, the teachings of astrology began to crop up and spread throughout regions like Mesopotamia, India, and Greece. There's even evidence of crystal ball gazing in these ancient times, with references dating back almost as far back as the first millennium BCE. While many of these more well-known forms of fortune-telling have long-standing histories, dating back thousands and thousands of years, some forms of divination didn't surface until much later. For example, it wasn't until the 15th century that we have any evidence of tarot card reading, which seem to have gained popularity in the northern cities of Italy around the mid-1400s. Tragically for divination as a whole, it seems that, as time has gone on, the validity and reputation of this branch of magic has rather suffered. Evidence of this can be seen in the way Muggles have openly monetized the idea of prophesizing the future, with illegitimate soothsayers taking money in exchange for wild tales of what's to come, as well as tacky carnivals, fairs, and even arcades operating coin-fed mechanical fortune tellers giving out psychic readings for pocket change. In relation to Harry Potter's experience with divination, our boy Harry was first introduced to this branch of magic in his 3rd year at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, when he chose divination as an elective subject of study. Alongside his classmates, he was taught by Professor Sybil Trelawney, Although many would argue that Professor Trelawney was a rather silly woman with little talent for foretelling the future, Sybil's gift as a seer was in fact real. You see, she'd come from a legitimate bloodline of seers, with her great-great-grandmother, Cassandra Trelawney, having had a well-known reputation as a true seer. Sybil herself had also, unknowingly, performed a prophetic vision in front of Professor Albus Dumbledore during her interview for the job as the divination teacher. Her well-timed authentic vision, combined with her great-great-grandmother's reputation, are most certainly what got Sybil the job on that fateful day in 1980 at the Hog's Head pub in Hogsmeade, which of course is the same prophecy that led to Lord Voldemort seeking out the Potter family and murdering James and Lily Potter. And while that one vision turned out to be incredibly real, Professor Trelawney's abilities, unfortunately, seemed to be entirely outside of her control, and her prophecies were therefore few and far between. It is likely this inability to control or authenticate the branch of divination which makes it such a divisive form of magic within the wizarding world. For there are those witches and wizards who truly believe in the power of fortune-telling, and then there are those who simply do not. As Harry discovers, his best friend Hermione Granger is among the latter group, believing divination to be very woolly, a sentiment she elaborates on to Harry and Ron, saying, "If being good at divination means I have to pretend to see death omens in a lump of tea leaves, I'm not sure I'll be studying it much longer. That lesson was absolute rubbish compared to my arithmancy class." Another witch who was not all that taken with the study of divination was Professor Minerva McGonagall. As you may recall, Professor McGonagall was a very no-nonsense kind of teacher, whose speciality was in transfiguration, a much more practical form of magic. It's therefore not all that surprising that she had the following view on divination. Divination is one of the most imprecise branches of magic. I shall not conceal from you that I have very little patience with it. Yet by the time Harry had reached his 6th year at Hogwarts, Professor Trelawney was not his only divination teacher. In 1996, the centaur Forense joined the school's faculty as another professor of this particular branch of magic. And as Harry learned, centaurs are a naturally gifted species when it comes to divining the future. Similarly to the human practices of fortune-telling, the history of divination within the centaur culture is rather unclear. Although Forense makes it rather evident that they do not refer to their methods as fortune-telling, we also know that the centaur's main focus within this branch of magic is in observing the skies above. It's been said that they've been reading the movements of the stars and planets through their own teachings of astrology for hundreds of years, and through Harry's divination class taught by Forense, we also know that centaurs have been known to use smoke from burning herbs in order to discern the future. In addition to that, it seems as though centaurs are much more interested in working out larger-scale prophecies, rather than making guesswork out of the more immediate future, especially when compared to the interests of humans. And with that, we've come to the end of today's video. What did you think? Did I miss anything? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and to forget to live.